And everyone's getting admitted now.
Awesome. We are, Scott, I don't know if you know this. This is the first week in Be Wealthy that we are live streaming. We are almost caught up to the year 2019. Almost.
I like it. I didn't know that, but I'm glad to be part of it.
Who knows? Maybe Be Wealthy will become a technology company. That would be exciting.
And I love that. I love that.
The good news is to crush it in real estate investing and getting wealthy, you don't have to be great at technology. But we're very, very excited today to introduce to all of you our new series, which is the Legends of Be Wealthy. And so Brett really put this content together for us and this idea together for us based upon what y'all had asked for. So at Be Wealthy and in our Scale to Wealth training, we spend every day of the week really focusing on building not only our operational businesses, but our wealth track as well. And many of you are taking and implementing those at such a high level that we thought it'd be really, really neat to highlight several of our members that are absolutely crushing it and to pull out some tricks, not tricks, but strategies and tactics that you guys are using every single day to have explosive growth on the wealth side. And so it is for obvious reasons that Brett asked us to start by interviewing his good friend, Scott Bauer. So Scott, I'd love to introduce you to the group. You and Brett, your relationship is very complex and integrated. Yes. So tell us a little bit about, just because it's hilarious and fun, your relationship with Brett.
Well, I mean, we started this several years ago. I guess I'll kind of back up. We had some questions to start off the group. So those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Scott Bauer. I'm here in the Phoenix market, and I met Brett, I think in 2017, 16 or 17, something like that. I started in the real estate game back in 2012. I got licensed as an agent and practiced as just a traditional real estate agent with Keller Williams for about a year. That was not my forte, not my favorite thing in the world. And I actually learned that there are other ways to make money. Figured out about wholesaling, figured out that I knew how to do it, and got started doing that right away. So since then, I have created a pretty sizable wholesale company. We also do some fix and flips. And naturally out of that, we've got a rental portfolio, and I've also created some notes. And also indefinitely, we also do some hard money loans just because it comes with the territory. In addition to that, I also have my hand in a title company because when you're doing lots of transactions, you might as well be making money on things you're already doing. And so I have a piece of that as well. So let's see, when I met Brett, the first experience that I had with Brett was in San Francisco, and my now wife and I and him sat there at a table and went on a wine tasting. And so naturally, we figured out that this was a lot of fun, and we had a good time. But that was a good break of the ice between Brett and I. Really figured out who we were at the core for both of us, and ever since then, it's been off to the running. That's for sure. So that's a little background about me, and I hope that helps.
The funny part of all of that is that you recently just got married, and you and Brett have become so close that did he officiate your wedding?
Well, the Reverend did actually come in and did officiate my wedding. Yes, he did. He flew all the way to Kauai, Hawaii, spent the time with us, was the one that actually brought my wife and I together and officially married us. So yes, that was an amazing part for sure.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Well, congratulations, obviously, on your recent nuptials. That's very exciting. But if you don't mind, I want to dig into a whole bunch of what you just shared with us.
Absolutely.
So when you're sitting at that table a few years ago at the wine tasting with Brett, talk to me about what your business looked like then.
So at that point, it was really just me. It was me in the business. I had been in there. I'd been running the company on my own, pretty much 100% just me for 4 years at that point. Let's see, I started my wholesale business, officially mine in 2014, but I worked for another guy wholesaling houses in all of 2013, and I was an agent at all of 2012. So at that point, my business was just me, and of course, I mean, I was crushing it at that point in time for what it was, but it was just myself. And gosh, how much we've evolved since then.
Well, Scott, I don't know many people who hustle harder than you do. You won't be outworked. I know that. So it is no shock that you were successful on your own, but that transition, right, of going from it just you and hustling you to now, what does it look like today?
You know, so it's kind of funny. It has evolved greatly, but there's still a key component of that, which is me, that's still involved. So today, all that we have is Arlena, who runs all the transaction coordinating and all of my, she's my executive assistant, and Precious, who actually runs all of the lead management and everything on the back end as far as leads go. The rest of the game is all me. So I still am the only sales guy. I'm still the only guy out there working deals. And that's kind of, you know, it's been a struggle on one hand, and it's also been a blessing on the other. You know, when things happen in the marketplace, I can withstand them no problem because I have very low overhead. On the same token, without me working in it, we don't have a business, right? Mm-hmm. So you have two sides of one coin. But for those that are listening to this, that maybe feel that you need to have a massive team to have massive success, that's not true. And let me just put some numbers to the table. Last year, I did 1.2 million in revenue, just myself. And this year, we'll get somewhere close to 2 million in revenue, still just myself running the game. So those of you out there that think you got to have a massive operation to do that, it's just not true. What you do have to have is understand, number one, the first thing you have to do in any business that's sales related is learn how to sell. You have to be good. You have to generate revenue. That's the only thing that runs every business is revenue. Without revenue, you have nothing. You have no business. You have no reason to do anything else. So those of you out there that are maybe just getting started or thinking about getting started in this game, the first thing you need to do is not go out there and get a business card with your name on it or go create a website or something like that. What you need to go do first and foremost is learn how to sell. What's your product? How can you make money doing it?
And if you, I love that, Scott. So if you were a newer person looking to get, whether it's on the retail side or the investment side, and you were looking to hone your skills and to have that explosive growth on that side, what steps would you take today?
So the only thing I can do is go from personal experience. And the number one thing that I tell everybody to do is go hire a coach and get in a room full of people. Get in a room full of people that are where you want to go or are above where you want to go so you can level up to them. I mean, that's like
smart.
When I first got started, I signed up for, this is where I met Brett, actually, was because of this mastermind I was in. But I signed up for a high-end mastermind that I didn't have the money to do. And I didn't feel like I probably didn't have the experience at the time to really be sitting in the room that I was sitting in. But I cut the check. I made the investment into myself in order to be around those people and to have the support of the people that were already where I wanted to go. Because in this real estate game, listen, guys, it's not a shocker. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is nothing new. People have been getting super, super stupid, wealthy, and rich off of real estate for forever. And so there's no need for you to try and reinvent the wheel there. Just go find somebody that's already doing what you need to do and pay them to teach you. It's like, it's really, really simple. One of the things that I definitely continue to do over and over is keep it simple. Don't overthink things. You know, don't, it's not a complicated, doesn't have to be a complicated matter.
Yeah. You know, you talk about my dad always said the KISS effect, keep it simple, stupid. I tried to take the last part of that, not personally that he said that to me all the time, but that approach actually is the coolest part of your business, is that you have kept it with Arlene and Precious and you really simple on this operating track side and generated as much capital and opportunity as possible to then go and build out the wealth side. So your focus of leverage has gone from, instead of just looking at leverage of people, meaning how do I add more people and make this bigger, to how do I over here streamline this to make as much revenue as possible, as much net profit as possible, to create leverage of income over here on the wealth side. And so that you really pivoted into, look, someone's going to have to hustle, and I don't know a harder hustler than me. So I'll hustle over here, and then I'll create my leverage here. And to do that through rentals, flips, your hard money lending. So now you have your short-term, mid-term, and long-term you're executing. It's really, it's a different approach than what every brokerage house on the retail side talks about, and every coach and trainer talks about on the wholesale side. They always talk about get bigger, get bigger, get bigger on the operating business. But what you've done is got smaller and simple, generated more capital to then catapult this side, which is different, Scott.
It is very different. And it's definitely a different approach. Whenever I sit in any big room with a lot of people, it's very, very different than most. But when I first got started in the wholesale business, my goal at the time was not to build a big wholesale business. The whole reason that I wanted to get into the wholesale game and real estate in general was to be able to develop cash, to develop capital that I could then deploy into long-term hard assets, whether that's multifamily, commercial, single family, whatever the asset may be that will pay me and my family over time forever. And so that was always the goal that I had. And it's come to fruition. That's exactly what I've got. That's where I am today. We've been able to build a ton of capital, a ton of cash, a ton of rentals, a ton of notes now. I actually just got into the oil and gas business as well. So there's now different buckets that I've been able to fill that are then going to spit off cash flow more or less forever, right? Or give me opportunities more or less forever. And so now, I'm still in that kind of position where I want to continue to build up capital, and I'm still working in the business. However, as time goes on over the next probably 12 months, I'll start to break off and build the team even more, because looking longer term, the wholesale business is another business that can be another revenue generating machine, just like a apartment building can, and just like single family rental portfolio can, or whatever investment. It's the same type of a thing. I just haven't been able to fully develop that out yet.
Yeah. Scott, it's so cool, because all of the things that I've heard you and Brett talking about over the years are so simplified. That's the perfect way to put it, and implemented into your business. You're so unbelievably streamlined in that approach. We talk a lot about, like, everyone's trying to get out of doing the thing, right? Everyone's trying to get out of doing like the actual thing that generates the revenue, whether it is on the operating business or on the wealth business. And you are the do the thing bandit. You are the spokesperson for the do the thing. And I think that's, how do you balance that with the growth that you've had? How do you keep that humble spirit of, I'm still going to do the thing for now?
Well, I mean, I think the reason that a lot of gurus and people that are out there, they try to, the thought process is they need to get out of doing the thing is because they're not good at doing the thing to begin with. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to be very good at buying deals at a deep, deep discount to everybody over time. In Phoenix, I've bought over 500 houses, which is crazy to think about, but that's a ton of houses that I've had to go in and personally negotiate myself. It wasn't that I hired other people to do it. It was me doing the thing. And so that's a skill that, number one, it's across the board. It doesn't have to be just real estate. It's everything. Negotiating, learning people, developing, getting the people skills to be able to read people and understand people, and how to not be a salesman, and how to instead figure out how to solve a problem. This goes, all the way from raising kids to, negotiating real estate, to negotiating car insurance, all of the above. You have this skill. And so to go and learn that and develop that skill from the beginning is something that somebody can never take away from you. You'll always have the ability to do that. Even when I go and I grow and build, more people, and I'm no longer in the seat of doing the thing anymore, I'll still have that skill. And I can then train the people around me to have that same skill as I had or have.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. So I was hoping we could pivot for a second. I could ask you some of my favorite questions that give us a lot of interesting feedback as we dig into your brain a little bit and learn a little bit more.
Sure.
What are the three key things that you would say over the course of your career from 2012 when you were an actual agent all the way up through your wholesale career to where you are today? Could say would contribute to your success?
So number one, I touched on it already, and that is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are the people that you're learning from? Who are the people that you're going to for advice? Who are you taking influence from, right? Because without being surrounded by the people that you aspire to be like, you'll never become them, because that means you're around people that you don't aspire to be like, which will take you away from your goals. So that's number one. Number two, adversity is going to hit everybody. Adversity sucks, meaning problems come up, issues come up, deal goes bad, market leads aren't coming in, whatever the reason is. The most important thing is keep going. You must keep going. You have to keep charging, because if you don't, then you only lose if you quit.
Yep.
If you never quit, you won't lose. And the third thing is, and probably the most important thing, is always keep learning. Continue to keep learning. The second you think you know it all means that you're about to go out of business. Go learn more. Keep reading. Keep learning. Keep going to events. Keep reading different books. Listening to different podcasts. Keep thinking outside the box. And how can I get burned? How can I lose here? And who can teach me on how to make sure I win? So that's definitely the three things I'd say.
All three of those things, like I always think of things in sports, because I played a lot of sports growing up, and I'm sure you did too. It's like the posture. It's the on the toe posture versus on your heels.
Yeah.
All three of those are like, you got to keep pushing forward. So let me ask you this question. You brought up adversity. So failure, or apparent failure, has been a part of everyone's life. But it can set you up for later success. Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
So yeah, and I mean, we've kind of talked about this too. And the favorite failure that I've had is not growing the business, like from a people standpoint, right at the beginning, like I was told to, because it's taught me two different things. Number one, taught me that I can actually be very profitable and sustainable, not building out the same group as I was told to. And it also told me that I know that I have the ability, the sky's the limit still. Like, I have unlimited growth still in front of me, even though I've had such a successful career, because the next step for me is to build out people, to build that big team, to ultimately crush it even more and create jobs and opportunity for people that, I haven't done before. So that, it's kind of two sides of the same coin.
Well, and that's once you do have the ability to push through the adversity, right? That's typically, I always find all of my failures, and I have a laundry list back there, all have those two sides, right? It's the lesson that it teaches you, which is really interesting. Yeah. Okay. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've made? It could be time, money, energy.
Yeah. So first off, I mean, there's two, and I want to make sure that they're both said here. So the number one investment that I think I've made in myself personally is meditating. I meditate every single day, every single morning. That's part of my morning ritual. And I do it in absolute peace and quiet when nobody's up, nobody's around, nobody can interact with me. And it's an opportunity for me to be one with the thoughts I have in my head, to realize that, what I'm thinking, how to set myself up mentally for the day ahead, and just to make sure that the adversity that I'm going to run into that day isn't going to knock me down so far that I'm going to quit.
Sure. Do you have I love the consistency. Do you have a type of meditation you do, a meditation tool you do? What does that process look like?
So it all started off in Headspace, the app on Headspace. And really it's only about 12 minutes every day. So it's not like it's a long time. But it's almost 13,000 minutes that I've been meditating. I, of course, keep track on the app, and it's, like I don't know if that's a specific type of meditation. It's just literally understanding that the thoughts that go on in your head are not, you can control them, and they're not you. I mean, they're influential in a way, but you can control them.
100%.
Yeah.
You can change the voice that's talking to you.
Yes.
And the way that it's talking to you.
Yes.
It can be your worst enemy or your best friend.
Correct.
That's spectacular. I've seen a big difference in utilizing meditation as well. So I'm glad that more people are doing it. So tell me, if you ran into a new investor or a new agent, what advice would you give them about entering the real world? And what advice should they ignore?
So get off social media for one, because social media will give you a false thought of, what this game is. And it is not an overnight success. No matter which way anybody wants to lie to you and tell you that, any guru out there that is giving you that BS, just don't listen to it. This is a process. Okay. So it's one step at a time. You can't go from 0 to 100 overnight. It just doesn't happen like that. You have to instead say, okay, if I'm going to 100, let's say that I'm going to give myself 5 years to get there. That means I need to go 20% a year, right? So instead of like looking at this huge overarching goal of 100 and being so like overwhelmed and like, oh man, this is so hard, how am I ever going to get there? Instead, break it down to bite-sized pieces. How can I make sure that like this is where I'm going? What are the steps I have to take to get there? Yeah. And try to make them measurable and not too crazy, right? You need to be able to attain those goals.
Mm-hmm. I like the saying, you overestimate what you can accomplish in 1 year, and you wildly underestimate what you can accomplish in 5 years. I know one of the big tools that Brett has utilized with a lot of people on our internal team, and I know with a lot of y'all as well, is that gap versus gain. That so often we are looking at the gap between us and the horizon, which is constantly moving. And we're constantly looking at what we haven't accomplished. And if you are consistent in your habits and consistent in your strategy, if you actually turn around and you look at the gain you've accomplished, you'll realize how much faster you're moving than you see. It's just the consistency over time. But you're such a high driver, Scott. I guarantee you're 95% of the time looking at the gap. How do you structure it so you don't lose momentum or lose recognition of everything you have accomplished?
Well, I think one of the things so it's funny, The Gap and the Gain was such an instrumental book. I read that when I first started working with Brett. He recommended I read that. And, it's so true. I think as a high achieving person in general, we're always looking to get better every single day. So it's hard, although I can look back and I can, I'm very grateful and I'm impressed with myself, and it's been a phenomenal career so far. One thing that I'm doing is every day I'm going one step further. I don't care necessarily how successful I was in the past, because past success does not equal future success. So instead, I always look at every single day as like, hey, I got another opportunity to charge forward. I get another day on this earth to make an opportunity for myself, for somebody else, for my family. I just have another day to keep driving forward, to keep moving, to keep striving for the next goal that I'm going for.
Yep.
As much as, I have big aspirations and big goals, but you kind of have to put it into perspective of like, you got to put a goal line, in place and say, okay, well, like when I get to this next goal line, I'm going to celebrate it, whatever that means. Right. Totally. Doesn't mean you got to stop there. That means, but you then achieve a goal, and that could be small. It doesn't have to be big. The goalpost of the day could be, I'm going to make 100 phone calls and I'm going to go on 2 appointments and I'll lock up 1 deal, or I'm going to try to lock up 1 deal, whatever it is. If you get there, like, celebrate it with whatever you need to. Yeah.
I think those micro celebrations are so important. One of the ones that really helped me that I know you do as well, when Brett gave me, when I first started working with him, the wealth plan, and he's like, if you come back next Monday and this isn't a $50 million wealth plan, you can't work here anymore. I mean, he didn't say it that way, but you know what I mean? He's like, you got to build this to 50 million. And I'm like, dude, how am I going to make $50 million? However, build the plan and then to back into it and utilize the balance sheet every month. When I'm able to sit down with my husband and put that in front of him, that win of being on track is such an easier way for me to balance the gap and gain, if that makes sense.
You know what's crazy is that, say I did the same exercise, right? And I think maybe we all have, whoever's been in Brett's world, because I think it's one of his favorite things to have people do. But you realize it's not as hard as you think. You realize it's really not when you just plan it out, put it on paper, and look and see how. We all know that money makes money, right? So to have an asset, it creates money over time. And so when you realize the amount of assets you need to buy per year, it's not that many to get to $50 million in 30 years or less. Like, I mean, it's really not that hard.
That's exactly.
And everybody in this group, everybody that's been in this world should have a plan to get there, because, you know, we can all achieve it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it sounds like lunacy when you first think about it. And then you start executing on the small level and see it snowball. And you're like, wait a minute, I think this thing's going to work.
I wanted to come back because you asked the question about somebody just getting into the space and like what should they listen to, what should they not listen to. So I mentioned earlier too about how somebody should, you know, go find somebody who you aspire to be like and pay them to teach you how to get there. Yep. It's worth your time. It's worth your money. You know, don't go reinvent the wheel. I'd also mentioned you don't have any business without sales and revenue. So focus all of your attention on that from the very beginning. How do you generate money? How do you generate revenue? Because that'll open up all the doors you need in the future. And don't go out and don't go get a website, business cards. That's the last thing you should do. Focus on revenue generating stuff. So I came across that and the last thing, you have 2 ears and you have 1 mouth. Use them accordingly.
That's an old classic that we forget.
Yes. Absolutely.
What is the book you recommend most?
Okay, so personally, one of my favorite books that I've read multiple times that has been very impactful is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Mm-hmm. And what this does is it takes a different approach to business, because this kind of goes with the meditation. This goes with just the realization that we're all here for a short amount of time. Don't get overstressed about it. The Untethered Soul has been such an impactful book for me. So I'd recommend everybody read that personally. Another book that really made a big impact on me this year that I read was The Millionaire Fast Lane. I forget who wrote that book, but it basically keeps things pretty simple, you know, and just says, charge after businesses that can make money, that can be exponential in their growth period, and that you're not going to spin your wheels wasting time on something else. Now, everybody who's on this call, I'm pretty sure, is in the real estate game, which is a fast lane business, or it can be. And so I recommend people reading that. And then the other book is
on the call that want to buy that book. It's by MJ DeMarco, and it's called The Millionaire Fast Lane: Crack the Code to Wealth and Live Rich for a Lifetime. We read that I think toward the beginning of this year in the mastermind group too.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. Last one is Who Not How. Of course, we need to understand who is the person that we need to have come into our world that will help you level up. How do you, and if you don't know how to do something, your best, let me rephrase that. Like, you should only do what you're really, really good at and outsource everything else, because people, I think, and myself included, get bogged down trying to learn something that's not their strong suit. That's not generating revenue for them. That's not, not what they're good at. And they end up wasting a lot of time to do a piss poor job at whatever they're doing anyways. So go find that person that is their thing and hire them and bring them on so that they can, help you grow.
Yeah. And you did that with Arlene and Precious.
Yep. Correct.
So you could focus on your revenue and income producing activities. Super smart.
Yep.
That book, Who Not How, is by Dan Sullivan, if anyone is looking for that one.
Yes.
What are some of the worst recommendations you've heard for an agent or an investor in the real estate space? What do you hear? You're like, oh my gosh, no, you're running with scissors.
So like, don't go buy a multi-million-dollar property and try to Airbnb it. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not a good idea for you. I mean, I don't care. Like, you just can get burned really, really bad. Bad recommendations. Also, like, don't stay kind of in your lane. Like, don't try to like just blow everything up without knowing what you're doing first. I think that's a good way to fail quickly and go out of money very, very quickly.
Yep.
Let's see. I mean, I have my own thoughts and opinions about short-term rentals and about, I would say know the numbers. Like, figure out how to use the damn calculator. Figure out how to use a 10BII calculator first before you go make any investment, because math will tell you the story. The math will not lie. The math will give you everything you need to know about pretty much every investment out there. So learn how to use the tools available for you and use those tools accordingly. I hope that answers the question.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the one that I hear a lot of frustration about, just from a variety of people in our world. And it's the know the actual numbers of real estate versus the emotion. Brett's a real disciplined, he hates when I call him this, but he's a total psychopath about the discipline of the numbers, where it's the numbers don't lie and anything else is lunacy and he's unwilling to move on it. The fact that is amazing.
That's like, it's just the numbers. Math is the language of real estate. Math is the language of business. Like, you need to not only know how to run and figure out what's a good real estate deal, but you also need to know what your books look like. What does your internal books look like? Do you have a P&L? Do you know how to read your P&L? That's probably most important. Do you need to know what you're looking at if you have a P&L? Can you categorize it and understand what is what and why? I mean, and that's something they don't teach you. So, you have to go out and learn that on your own, which, shocker everybody, this thing called YouTube will give you all the answers you need to know. It's amazing. It's all free too, which is crazy. But just, you need to know the numbers. You need to understand how math works in the business that you're in. As long as you can do that, you should be okay.
And that's why HGTV doesn't necessarily teach the numbers of real estate, because it's not a very great show. So That's why the sex appeal of real estate is not in HGTV, unfortunately. It's not in the numbers.
Strictly entertainment is all that thing is. Strictly entertainment.
And it is entertaining. I will give them that. They're looking at different numbers. They're looking at eyeballs versus calculator. Correct. So I have two more questions for you, if you are so willing. So, what purchase of $100 or less, around $100, has positively impacted your life in the last couple of years?
I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record right now, but the 10BII calculator is the number one thing that has changed my life. Everything can come back to that calculator. You can look at everything from how to structure deals to amortization schedules to just understand what kind of investment you're actually getting. Yep. A lot of people, the gross numbers is not always the real numbers, and so you really need to understand, like, how do you figure out what kind of return you're going to get? As investors, we all have an obligation to understand our returns. You need to understand what you're actually making. Mm-hmm. And without having a solid tool to do that, just like, you're not going to have that answer. And so anybody out there that doesn't have or doesn't know how to use the 10BII calculator, It might even be free, or it's like $2.99 on the App
I
Store.
think the enhanced version's $4.99, but the free version's awesome. It still gives you all your amortization schedules, everything you need.
Yep. So that would be definitely my recommendation for anybody out there.
That's a good one. That was way under budget, Scott.
I know. Well, I'd like to keep it simple.
Saving money to make money. I like it.
That's right.
If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking of, and basically you can get your message out to millions and billions of people, what would it say?
You know, I looked at this question this morning. There's a lot of things I would love to say, right? Probably I mentioned it earlier too. If you never quit, you never lose. Like you never lose if you never quit. Like when I think about how this resonates with every part of my life, from exercise, from continuing to learn, from, you know, running business, growing business, opening new businesses, like you're always, you have to keep charging. You know, if you don't quit, you're never going to lose. You might have some failures along the way, but that's where you learn. That's where you learn. I mean, another thing out there that you could put on a billboard is you either win or you learn. Those are the two options that you get. There's no losing. There's just winning or learning. That's it.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. I heard one the other day kind of on that same thought process, and it was, you've made it through every single one of your bad days. Every single one.
Yep.
So you're going to be fine.
Yep.
Keep moving forward.
A lot of it too is like I had a coach a long time ago tell me I was having a rough patch, and he was like, hey, just listen here. This too shall pass. Whenever you have a bad day, you have a problem or an issue or something, and it's not going good in business, relationships, whatever, take a breath, sit back. This too will pass. Time will go on and time will fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brett talks a lot about, especially in leadership, he talks a lot about, he's high charging. And so with any super high charging, high driving person, you can have emotion tied to that as well. And so he really realized and what he talks about is where he took the pivot in leadership, where your highs are not, your victories can't be the highest thing in the world, and your lows can't be the lowest thing in the world. To neutralize them and to realize they're all just part of the process, not only internally can help you, but also externally in your leadership style. It gives your team around you a much more steadfast way to follow you, where it doesn't feel as emotionally, what we think is exciting, they could think is emotionally abusive. But it's also helps you internally, right? Where it's your highs aren't that high, your lows aren't that low, even it out.
And I'm only laughing because Brett and I just talked about this again. We talked about it many times, but you know, like emotional intelligence and it takes time. Like this doesn't happen, I don't think, for people just overnight, where like all of a sudden one day you wake up and you're just perfectly emotionally stable and you know how to not have those highs and lows. You have to learn it over time. And so it's, something he said a long time ago as well is, it's not ever as good or as bad as it seems.
Yep.
And this is along the same thing to your point, just how do you stay in the middle? How do you keep it so that, you're the same at all given times? That's it.
That's so funny. We were in Alabama looking at some properties, Brett and I, in Huntsville, and I was so amped. I was having the day of my life. It was so much fun. We were looking at these some amazing properties, some that we call like wizards' castles. I was having just the greatest day of my life. And Brett was pushing me to get him an answer on something else. And I said, Brett, I can't make a decision right now. I am riding so high. I'll say yes to everything that exists. And he's like, baller, he calls her baller. He's like, you got to get a grip of your emotions. Like, it's never that high. It's never. So he says that often. So we did have a couple of questions, Scott, if you don't mind bouncing back. Chantel, who's watching us live on Facebook, she said there were two things that you mentioned that were new habits for you that made a big impact. Meditation was the first. What was the second?
So we had talked about meditation. Well, I guess I'll just walk you through my day. So my day, I wake up. One of the things I love to do in the morning is I wake up before everybody else wakes up. I like to wake up around 4:50 in the morning. That's a very specific number on purpose, but 4:50 in the morning, every morning, and I have for years and years and years. The reason why is because nobody is around. Nobody's awake. Nobody's calling. Nobody's texting. Nobody's emailing. Nobody's doing anything. It's my quiet time in the morning. This is when I meditate. And this is when I become like one with the day. I get a chance to sit in peace and quiet, have coffee with the birds, literally in the morning, and, really set myself up for the day, whatever that's going to mean. The next thing I do is I work out first thing in the morning, every single day. That's like, I love working out. And that's not because I love working out, because it's the mental challenge that comes with it. On the days where I don't want to go work out, I do it anyways. On the days where I'm tired, guess what? I'm going anyways. But the days when I feel really, really good, of course I'm going. But you know what the reality is that it just helps you get through things, other adversities in your life that you don't want to go, that you don't want to do, or that you don't feel like doing, or that maybe it's not, we can make up all sorts of excuses on why success is not achieved, but, just go do it. Just make it happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Every time I get an opportunity to talk to someone who has unbelievable success like you do, I'm selfishly pulling out everything that I can take and implementing in mine. And there's one key phrase that I hear throughout your language, and it's consistency.
Yes.
You're a very consistent person, which sometimes when we're more of a sales driven individual, more entrepreneurial, I think that's one of the things that can get pushed to the wayside. Consistency in your mindset and your activities and your language are really, really prevalent. So I congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
Consistent efforts and thoughts and processes give consistent results. So
100%. Yep. Yeah. And that the consistency part, and in every investment business or every real estate business or any sort of business in general, that's how you're going to succeed. Yeah. If you look at anybody, any business, any specific person out there, they've always been very consistent over time. Mm-hmm. That, overnight success is just not real. And if it is real, they end up losing it later because they don't know how to sustain it.
That's exactly right. You just hit the nail on the head. Yeah. And you look at it and go like, wow, they got lucky. And the fact of the matter, it was all this consistency moving in the same direction over time.
Yep.
I also laugh at a lot of times we get into real estate or we get into investing for this idea of freedom, right? Oh, we can write our own schedule. We work for ourselves. We make our own choices. We can do whatever we want to in the afternoon. And then I look at the people in our mastermind group who have the greatest success, right? Like yourself. And you're the most disciplined people I've ever met in my entire life. It's this structure and discipline throughout your day that's getting those results versus the freedom to willy-nilly. It's you have freedom because of your discipline.
Yeah, but I would make a strong argument that as any entrepreneur out there, that we get to make our own schedule. We get less time. Really, is what it comes to. We get less time. We get less freedom, even if you are structured. Because I could tell you that every second of almost every day for a decade plus, I think about my business. I don't have a time when I'm like, oh, I'm off work. I can't think about it. It just doesn't happen. I think about it from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed and figure out how, I'm always thinking about how can I become better? How do I lose? Who's trying to take my money? Who's trying to push me out of business? There's always this constant anxiety about that. And that, it could be part of the reason why I feel that I have to be consistent. So I want to make sure I don't drop the ball.
Yeah. That's incredible. Well, Scott, I have asked you a number of questions that I selfishly wanted to know, but I wanted to open it up to the group as well. If y'all have some questions for Scott, you can type them in, and I'm going to get this wrong. You can type them in the chat box, unmute yourself, and then Cindy, if you want to share with them, I think on Facebook, you comment below. Whatever you do on Facebook, on the face pages, do that. If you're on the Zoom, you can put them in the chat box or unmute yourself. Does the shark have a question? I see the shark.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot. I appreciate yes, ma'am. I apologize.
You don't say anything you want to.
Well, you're the boss. It comes natural. It definitely does. So, Scott, I am curious. I mean, you had a lot of positivity to say, staying in the game, how to elevate yourself, elevating coaches out there. Was there like a golden moment ever? Like, boom, that's it. I got it. Like any kind of turning point or anything like that, that like really kind of gave you maybe like a wake up call, for lack of better words?
Well, so no, there wasn't, because that's kind of an open-ended question. Are you talking about a moment in time when I realized, like, hey, I know how to make how to make money?
Yeah, like a turning point, a tool you picked up, a certain coach that gave you this one golden nugget that's like, man, this clicks, this makes sense, anything like that?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of those over the years. When I realized, the first wholesale transaction I ever did, I was like, wow, this works. Like I can do this. This is real. It's legal. I can make money. I can do this. So that was a turning point. The first time I made 500 grand net was a huge turning point, that I realized that, like, wow, I can do this. And once again, first time I made $1 million net, I figured out that, like, wow, this is a real thing. You can do this. And so it's a constant, like, there's always these little things that happen over time that just give you consistent confidence and continuing to move forward.
And was there anything that was like a moment that, like, man, that was a really big mistake, and you're going to give advice to everybody, say, hey, avoid this. This was one of the biggest mistakes I made.
I've really, this has been constant for me since I started. And I would say that, like, I don't make any massive strides that would take me out of business. So, like, I have not made any massive, like, shot for the stars on an investment where if I made it, it would just totally be a home run and I could retire. Or if I lost it, I would be out of business. I don't take those risks. Gotcha. And I kind of look at it on every decision made throughout the business and through the investment, whatever I'm buying, I figure out, like, how do I lose everything? And how do I make sure that I stay in business no matter what? Because no matter what you do, like, if you don't have any revenue and you have no way to stay in business, then you're out. Like, you're just out of the game. Most important thing, you want to stay in the game.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're very welcome. What else?
Well, not everybody at once. Take it easy. Take it easy.
Well, and I guess I can talk for a second as well. Like, this business and this game that we're in, like, it is consistently changing. Especially right now. Everybody that's been in the business maybe just got started in the last couple of years, and it seemed pretty darn simple to make a shit ton of money. I mean, it really has. The reality is that's not true, and it's not. Like, we've been very lucky over these last couple of years that real estate is one of the industries that have really thrived throughout this whole pandemic, and it's something that's a bit unique. So, I think that now people have to go back and figure out, like, what are the systems and processes, and what are the realities of how to build a sustainable business, and focus one step at a time. Just take, like I mentioned earlier in the call here, like, if you have a massive goal, don't be overwhelmed, and don't be, don't discount the fact that it's going to take you time to get there. Just take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps.
I think that's super smart. I think that's super smart. Scott, I can't thank you enough for pouring into everyone and sharing all of this about your journey, being so vulnerable with us. We really, really appreciate it. Before you go, we do have one more question that just came in from Facebook, from Brant Graves. who were your who's that helped you get started, and how did you choose them?
Yeah. So the first person actually that I ever reached out to was Justin Colby, matter of fact. And the reason why is he had a podcast at the time called Science of Flipping. And as I was a realtor and I was trying to figure out how to get out of being a realtor, I was going to every resource I could find in order to find how to get out of doing that. And of course, I stumbled across his podcast, listened to every episode, realized he was in Phoenix. So found out a way to reach out to him. I reached out to him, had a great conversation. You know, he was kind of my intro into the wholesale space. And then I actually joined Kent Clothier's Real Estate Worldwide group. And that's the mastermind that I cut a check for that I didn't really have the money for. But that ultimately introduced me to the people that would help me get to where I'm at today. That was the first stepping stone in my career, and something that I remember at the time. I told my dad or my parents, my brother, that I was spending this large amount of money to join a group, and they thought I was crazy. They thought it was a waste of money. Like, they thought I was just going to lose my shirt and it was going to be a waste of time and money and all of the above. And sure enough, I proved them wrong. That's for sure. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without those people in the group, for sure.
Well, I'm going to add something there, because you come to our mastermind as well as you're on our Scale to Wealth calls, and you play harder out and get you are wringing every possible piece of value out of every call, every event. You are pushing to always get your value. And I think, yes, getting in the right room is important, but Scott, you play different in that room than some other people do. And I think that has helped you.
You're not wrong there.
You play hard when you show up.
The thing with that, though, is that, once again, this is something that's learned over time. So I've been part of masterminds where I didn't play full out, and I feel like you don't get the same value out of the group and out of the mastermind as if you do play full out, period. You know, if you show up to the calls and just showing up, kind of like going to the gym, you know, if you go to the gym and you show up there, you're not going to not work out, right? But same thing here. If you join a group but you don't show up and you don't interact with the people, you don't learn and try to understand things about the mastermind, about the other people, and how you can add value to them and take value from the group, etc., you're not going to get the full effect, period. So play full out. That's
awesome. I love it. I don't mean to call you to the carpet, Megan, but for some reason your screen kept popping up on mine. Did you have a question?
I was just wondering about your work chart, organizational chart, what that structure looked like.
Right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
or even when you first started would be great too.
So yeah, it's super simple. When I first started, I'm the org chart. This is me. And today it's not a whole lot different from that, to be honest with you. It's myself. We talked about it earlier in the call. It's myself, Arlena, and Precious. It's the three of us that just dominate everything. So that's everything in the office as far as our just operational staff and what we need. Of course, there's other people involved in my business, but they don't work directly, here in the office. For an example, CPA, of course, and bookkeeper and attorneys. Those are important people to have in your world, but they're not on my payroll directly, I should say.
Scott, I don't mean to call out your team, but I will tell you, Arlena and Precious show up on all the ops calls. They are playing all out just like you. And I want to make sure that you know that. I could have told you that offline. I probably should have, but I want you to know that too, that is bred throughout your organization, and you should be really proud.
Well, thank you. Yes. And they love it too, which is awesome. I love them growing, and it's great. When you play full out, you get the full effect. That's for sure.
Congratulations on what you have built, my friend, on both the operating side with your team, on the wealth side, and then also personally, how much incredible growth that you have experienced is really fun to watch. So we look forward to continuing to watch this catapult that you're on. And then if anyone has questions for Scott or has questions about some of the tools like the 10BII calculator or some of the other tools we talked about, go ahead and just comment below in the Facebook group, and we'll go ahead and reach out to you directly with a link to go ahead and book a call so we can get those answered on Scott's behalf. And if we don't know the answer, we'll reach out to Scott and make sure we get it for you.
Perfect.
So thank you, Scott, so much. We appreciate your time. We know it's incredibly valuable, and thank you so much for pouring into the group.
You're very welcome. Appreciate the invite to be here. Everybody.
All right, guys. That was our first Legends of Be Wealthy call. We will see you next week with another great guest. Bye,
Thanks.
guys.